If you read the video title, you might be thinking, scary term for a kid's film. Death is a topic mostly taboo in Western and especially American culture, and tends to be associated with either colorful spookum scarums like Halloween, or edgy, gritty media that kills off characters. But when it comes to personal experiences with death and grief, it's not the stuff of kids' films, to the point that many kid-friendly franchises won't even allow the word die or kill to be used in their media. Death isn't fun and it's not happy, but it also isn't something comfortable to talk about, so it's easier to just ignore it until you can't anymore. And then it's hard to process or explain since there's no framework in place, no widely understood way to healthily confront mortality or to grieve. Death positivity is a term made and popularized by Caitlin Doughty of Ask a Mortician fame. Her tireless work in educating the public, with excellent videos and books that I highly recommend, has brought many people to a more nuanced understanding of what death is. Caitlin's death advocacy calls for relatives and loved ones to have more control over a deceased person's corpse, for lawmakers to allow inclusive and diverse practices when preparing a body, for more transparency in the funeral industry, which is loaded down with needless expenses and misinformation, and for resources for living people to learn more about what she calls the good death. That is, a cultural understanding that death is a natural consequence of living, and a system in place to support people who have to confront that idea head on. Now, what does all that advocacy have to do with Coco? A lot. Characters who are dead, or at least partially dead, is nothing new, not even for children's media. What Coco brings to the table is the strength it draws from Mexican culture itself, not merely the idea of a physical afterlife, but the way the living are shown to interact with the dead. Coco isn't a movie about losing somebody, it's not about mourning. It's about the connection that the dead have to their living loved ones, and it stresses the importance of that connection and that memory to a degree that's practically unprecedented in its genre. Coco recognizes dead loved ones as individual people in the land of the dead, with thoughts and feelings and personal journeys that continue even after their lives have ended. Perhaps just as importantly, the film introduces audiences across the globe to the Day of the Dead with its own very specific guidelines for what to do to keep your connection with the deceased loved one. Laying down some pasucho petals has the direct consequence of guiding one's ancestors home. Making an ofrenda and putting up photos lets loved ones visit you. Passing down their stories is what keeps them in the land of the dead, and memories are directly tied to a dead loved one's well-being. And the film showcases an entire community coming together to remember their loved ones, to keep the memory of them alive in a celebration of what they did and loved in life. And that's the key word, celebration. Coco lovingly shares the Mexican tradition of celebrating people who have died in a way that many people, especially many Americans, may not have seen before. Dia de Muertos is a uniquely Mexican tradition tied to the cultural identity of Mexico, but those of us who don't celebrate it can still take away the values that Coco stresses. Memories, music, family, love. None of those things will go away even when a loved one does. If you're interested in this topic, I highly recommend the article Your Guide to the World of Coco, published by Sarah Chavez, who's a member of the Order of the Good Death. She's also featured in the Mexico chapter of From Here to Eternity, Traveling the World to Find the Good Death by Caitlin Doughty, which also explores the topic of Dia de Muertos. Links are below.